When I was given the topic, life, love, and mothers, I did what every columnist does. You put it down in a column, and I started to write an article. And the title of my article was Zen and the Art of Breaking Up with Your Mother. I hope the audience will still be as lovely as you have been when I'm done with this topic. Let me start the story from the beginning. The story starts with my dad, Henry Francis Odhiambo. The guy is all of 6'2". He looked a bit like an older Muhammad Ali. He had a voice like James Earl Jones. He finished his career at the top of his game. Highly reliable guy. Everybody looked up to him. He carried the world on his shoulders. In fact, we called him Atlas. Then suddenly, and this is the sad part, at the young age of 56, one day just before he goes off to work, he collapses. And by the time they rushed him to hospital, he was pronounced dead. And just like that, my mother became the main man in my life. And I became a mama's boy. Now, when guys hear about mama's boy, the first thing that comes to your mind is what something like Steve Harvey would say, the kind of guy in the middle of a candlelight dinner, everything is great, suddenly gets a call from his mother, and you know that look that guys give you, like, I've got to take this call, and his mother needs high blood pressure pills, and he has to get them, and he has to deliver them Urungai. Or that kind of guy who you suddenly put this date together, you have to go to Zanzibar, and you tell the guy, honey, babes, babe, we're going to Zanzibar, and he says, I've got to run through this to my mother because my mother, she's scared about water ever since she lost her father in a water accident in 1963. Mama's boys. When my dad left, when he was gone, my mother took over. And it's amazing what happens like in the traditional African system, because my mom had retired and she was living in the village, and suddenly all these uncles who could never speak when my dad was around, they had a voice, man. They started speaking badly, and I'm from the Luo community, and they say, daka daka de, which means, this is me, a woman. How can she speak in front of men? And I was young. I was only 15 years old, and I figured the best I could do then was to just hold up, put a front, because I was a big guy. I played rugby. Ham was my coach at one point, and I figured if anybody laid a finger on my mother, they would lose their teeth. But there was a deeper thing, there was a deeper heart that she had, She would get frustrated, those were really big shoes that she had to fill. And I used to wonder, man, how could I get deep down there and sort of release a bit of that frustration, take away some of that heart? And I figured anything that a boy would do at that age is that study hard, pass your exams, get a good job, take care of part of the burden. So that's exactly what I did. So I studied hard, I dug in there, I got a good grade in Form 4, got myself into University of Nairobi. 4 years later, I got the picture, I had the gown, my mom was happy. And for a moment there, I thought, woo, this is great. Then she starts to add on the pressure of like, when is the big job coming? And you know how it is when you don't know people in this country. So I started engaging. I started doing my best, but nothing was giving. But along the way through campus, I had discovered writing. So I continued to write. And I'd write, and my stuff started to get picked up. And then the Daily Nation came along, and they gave me a whole column, an entire page to myself to lord my opinion. It was amazing. I'd arrived. So I rush home, I tell Mama that, hey, man, guess what, I've got a newspaper column, it's called Man Talk, I'm the main guy, I'm ranked, I'm somewhere below Mutai Nguyen, Philip Ochieng, They know me in this country. And my mom looked at me and said, that's good. In Luo we say, Poda lemoni, I'm still praying for you. I'm hoping you'll get a real job. So I went back to Nairobi, worked hard, hustled, contacts, started networking, hung out in clubs, and never used to hang out, hoping, I'd get recommended. No big deal was coming, but I still kept on writing. Then EABL came along. They used to call it Kenya Breweries. They came along, and there was a small gig, and I became a scriptwriter of a TVC, television commercial. And this was a big deal. It was like called Nderemo Imabingo all over the country. And there was some little money that came with it, And so that Christmas, I rushed home, had a small car, and I had some money, and I told Mom, let's go to a little shopping center we call Luanda. Let's do some groceries. Let me do some proper shopping. And somewhere along the way, we meet a lady called Nora Oduesa, who turns out to be a relative. And Nora was the head of this campaign. So as I go off to get the groceries, Mom starts to talk to Nora. And when I come back, Nora calls me aside and says, you never guess what, Your mom says I should get you a job, So that evening, and it got to me. I was like, man, this is getting a bit much. So, for the first time in my life now, after dinner, after the food has been made, after I've eaten, I confronted my mother and I told her for the first time, Mom, you got to stop doing this. I'm never going to be that big office guy. I'm not going to have a big boss man on the door. I'm never going to have one of those big titles. I'm a writer. This is what I do. I enjoy this. It's my passion, and I'm actually good at it. So I'm an artist. I'm a storyteller, man. Let go. I think for the first time in her life, she looked at me and said, damn, you're just like your father. You're totally grown up. You're your own man. And that is precisely the moment I broke up with my mother. Because until you metaphorically cut that cord, mother's always going to hang on. Because that's what mothers are supposed to do. The mother's job is basically to keep you close, to coddle you, to keep you there, to save you from the harsh world. A father's job is to basically extract you from this influence and to become your own man. The problem is, fathers are not always there. They're absent for different reasons. The most obvious is that guys, there's a lot of pressure to just earn a living. So you spend long hours. There's not enough time to spend with the boys. A lot of guys just can't cope. They go down the slippery slope of addiction and they never recover. A whole bunch of guys just simply die and they're gone. So what happens is that as a young man, when you lose that father figure, you turn to your mother. And your mother's job is just to hold you back. Because what is often talked about is the father-son relationship. What is not said is the mother-son relationship. Because mothers are very, very influential in the kind of women we'll date. So if your mother was warm, loving, and cheerful, you tend to be attracted to women who have those same qualities. If your mother was very strong-willed, focused, independent, those are the kind of attributes you look for in a woman. But if your mother was manipulative, cold, calculating, confrontational, then you become a commitment phobe. Because basically, you become so afraid of women, you're so afraid of that hat that every time you go there, you'll be pulled down and you'll be in no position to extract yourself. And so as a man, it is your job to learn how to snip and cut this cord. For as long as you are tied in to this space, your entire life will be about reacting to the emotions of somebody else. Your entire life will be orbiting around your mother's influence. You could be 60 years of age, 60 years old, and your mother would call and you still twitch, She'd come to the house, 65-year-old man, and she'd be telling you, have you eaten? And be like, Mom. It happens, and it continues to happen. So I've learned, and in the long experience of writing for at least now 18 years, that in order to be a fulfilled man, in order to find balance, we have to balance the best of our mother's imprint and pick up the most powerful masculine ideals that we could find. When we find these two aspects of our life, we get this perfect union that allows a man to be basically self-actualized. You come into your own and you find some sense of purpose that's about you and not about reacting to other influences around your life. In the many years, I'm not very young, that I've lived in this life, I can now stand here and truly say that I'm thankful and grateful to my mother, who's called Mary Akoth Odhiambo, Nyaseme Kombewa, daughter of the Kodongo clan of Kisumu County. for truly making me the man that I am today. Erokamana Mama.